In episode 68 of Pop Culture Weekly, I talk with superstar director JJ Abrams and the cast of the Stephen King limited series on Apple TV Plus, Lisey's Story. Let's go!
You're listening to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon, presented by 92.9 Tom FM, an iHeart radio station.
Hello, and welcome to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon. I, of course, am Kyle McMahon, and it is episode 68. And I've got to say, I was a little bit overly aggressive in that intro. I'm typically a little bit aggressive and quick in the little episode intro, so you know what's coming in that episode. But that was like overly aggressive, so I apologize for that. So any hoodle. I still can't believe it's episode 68. For real. Episode 68. 68 episodes. And we've got a good one this week. Remember I hinted last week that Stephen King had a new series coming out this week? Well, that series is called Lisey's Story, and it is a limited event series on Apple TV Plus, debuting today, depending on when you're listening to this. And it is incredible. The series follows really a wife that is mourning the loss of her son, her husband, who's a successful author, and it's kind of at the hands of an obsessed fan. And it stars Julianne Moore, Cephas Jones, who, of course, he by the way, has been nominated for 4 Emmys and has won twice for his role on This Is Us. Also, Joan Allen is absolutely incredible in it. She's, of course, been nominated for 3 different Academy Awards. Those are Oscars. She's so good, and she's so good in this. The whole cast is amazing. And, of course, JJ Abrams produced it. And how can you not love literally everything that JJ Abrams has ever put out, ever? And if you disagree with me, well, you're just wrong. So anyway, I talk with JJ Abrams today. The one and only JJ Abrams, right here on Pop Culture Weekly on iHeartRadio. I also talk with Cephas Jones. I also talk with Dane DeHaan, who you may know from such little tiny movies as Chronicle, or maybe as Harry Osborn and the Green Goblin in The Amazing Spider-Man, or the star of A Cure for Wellness, or Valerian in a City of a Thousand Planets. I mean, he's such a great guy, and I really enjoyed my conversation with him, and I really can't wait for you to listen to this conversation. So he also stars in the Amazon Prime series 000, which is pretty cool. If you haven't yet checked it out, go do so. So what can I say? Listen. I'm really excited for you to hear the interviews from Lisey's Story. Before we get into that, though, so I got a preview. I got to see The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, early. It is so good. You know, I love the Conjuring universe, and this is really the 3rd chapter in the main Conjuring proper franchise. It's actually the 8th in the Conjuring universe franchise, but it is really, really awesome. I love it. I love the Conjuring movies. Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson are just incredible as Ed and Lorraine Warren. This is a bit different than the other kind of chapters in the Conjuring universe. You know, this really follows a kind of legal procedural kind of storyline as it deals with the real life case of Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, I believe his name is, and he was the first person in U.S. legal history to claim not guilty due to demonic possession. So that's where the story revolves around. So it's not like the typical kind of haunted house story that we've seen in the last 2 Conjuring proper entries. It's much different, and it's so good, so creepy, so atmospheric. I went and saw it at the Philadelphia Film Society in Philadelphia, and it was great to, be around fellow film lovers, and I actually I've seen 2 other movies in the last week using my Regal Unlimited card. I saw Saw Spiral. I saw Saw Spiral, and that was great. It was a cool, kind of fresh new take on the franchise. And you know what? I have to close my eyes during these parts because of Saw, because it's just too gory for me. But I like the story and the mystery and, you know, the thrill and, you know, some of the horror elements. It's just too gory for me. So I still go and see them. I just close my eyes during the gory parts like a freak, basically. And then I also saw A Quiet Place 2, which was another excellent sequel. I really, really, really enjoyed A Quiet Place 2. It kind of expanded the world of A Quiet Place, if you will. Obviously spoiler free for all of this, but it's really awesome. And how can you not absolutely adore Emily Blunt? I mean, John Krasinski, if you're interested in a throuple, I would glad to be a part of your throuple, because you're amazing, first of all. And Emily Blunt is amazing and talented and smart and beautiful. And John, you are too, but especially Emily Blunt. So if you guys are up for a throuple, I'd be glad to, marry you or whatever. So anyway, you can check out my in-depth review of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, up on the website, popcultureweekly.com, and other stuff that's cool that's up there. We talked about, or no, we didn't talk about it because it happened this last week. The Funkoween was so much fun. Funko had a entire week relating to horror launches, horror announcements, pops, Funko Pops, Funko Pop pins, Funko sodas, loungewear stuff, Loungefly stuff, all just really, really, really cool stuff. And I have all of the coverage up on that on popcultureweekly.com too. So, all right. In any event, let's get into Lisey's Story stuff, which premieres on Apple TV Plus. Love, love, love Apple TV Plus. Love, love, love Lisey's Story. You can check out my interview or my review of Lisey's Story up on the website. All right. First up, the one, the only, JJ Abrams. Thank you so much for speaking with me, JJ. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Of course. So this miniseries, Lisey's Story, is absolutely incredible. And I would say, in my opinion, that it is ultimately the story of grief. Is that something that you would agree with?
I think it's a story of certainly of trauma and of mourning and coming to terms with grief and loss. But it's also a story of obsession, I think, and family and commitment and madness, and it's ultimately, I think, it has a huge heart, and it's the thing that, to me, as scary and as odd as it is, it's the thing that always made the story so poignant and provocative and special. So it's a very distinct cocktail, I think, that Stephen King has mixed for us.
And was it the complexity of it that drew you to this?
Well, partly it was that the story was so unique. Part of it was how special I know it was to Stephen himself. I mean, he's talked a lot about this being the most special book for him that he's written. And then when he asked if we would do it and said he wanted to write all the episodes, I felt like it was such a gift to us, because to, adapt that story, it would be a tricky thing, I think, for someone else to come in and sort of know exactly what the most resonant and powerful elements to emphasize were, because it is a fairly complex story. And to have Stephen come in and write each of these in the way he does, which is to say he's just a remarkably prolific writer, as we all know. But to get to, read pages from him that are not transcribing the book to a different format. He really did adapt it. And then to have Pablo Larraín, such an amazing director, come in to direct it and have them collaborate in a way where they were really each finding a way to communicate this story on screen, which is to say that some things translate easier than others from a novel to screen. So it was great getting to watch their process and be involved. And obviously, as a fan of Stevens, it's an honor to get to be involved in this at all.
And this isn't your first project with Stephen King in regards to his work. How has this been different from, I mean, obviously the story is completely different, but for you, how has this been different than the previous two?
Well, I think on this one, because it was so clear, given that Stephen was writing the scripts, what was required. For us, it was really at Bad Robot, it was really about finding the director, finding the cast, helping put that together, getting to work with, Apple TV Plus on this has been kind of a dream. I've been a fan of Apple's for forever, and really know and like the people who are over there. So getting to run interference or help out where needed. For me personally, it was really about getting out of the way whenever I could, because you had Stephen King giving us these scripts, and you had Pablo, who's such an accomplished filmmaker, doing his thing. But it was, I will say, as a fan of the story certainly of Stevens and of Pablo's, it was just an amazing thing to get to work with both of them.
And is, in your role, do you see it for something like this that is so complex story-wise, and you have powerhouse of talent? The talent is absolutely incredible. Do you find that easier for you or harder for you in your role as a producer?
Oh my God, it's about 10 billion times easier, because when you have Stephen King saying, "Here's the script I wrote," and you have Pablo saying, "I'm going to direct this script," and you have people like Julianne Moore and Clive Owen and Joan Allen and Jennifer Jason Leigh in the roles. As a producer, sometimes your job is to help excavate and figure out what is the story, or how can we better tell the story? How can we best tell the story? Sometimes, there can be filmmakers that are acting in a unruly and sometimes unfocused way. Other times you have writers who aren't really, there are a million examples of things where being a producer on a project is, you're getting in to try and put out fires and fix problems that arise. On this one, of course, like everything, there are issues, and the biggest issue on this one, frankly, was the fact that after months and months and months of shooting, we, like the whole world, shut down, and getting this production back on its feet and being one of the first to go back into production during the pandemic was, a struggle. But the struggle was never, fundamental. The struggle was never personnel. The struggle was never the creative. That was always really a joy.
I love that. And with the cast, particularly, I had read that Julianne was actually in Stephen and yourself in your mind as this project was coming together. Is that true?
Well, I know that when, we started talking about who could play the title character, it was, we knew that whoever it was going to be had to be someone who could sort of do it all. Because on the one hand, this is a character who's gone through and going through incredible trauma and struggle and mourning, and to have a character be in that place and still be rootable and relatable, and to have someone who could draw you in and go through, a kind of madness as much as anything, and not feel like they're somehow off-putting or just, it was definitely a challenge. And I feel like I don't remember another actor that came up who we thought was more capable or better suited for this. And the idea that, we were lucky enough to actually get Julianne Moore to sign on, and not just Julianne, but the rest of the cast was really incredibly lucky.
Yeah, this core cast. I mean, each one of them is so powerful in their own way, in their own role. I mean, Joan Allen is everybody. It really is. I feel like as much as it is Lisey's story, it is also, in my opinion, very much an ensemble piece, as each one of these people has such a vital role, quite literally in her story.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I feel like the supporting cast is much more than that in a lot of ways, because they, not only are they so great at what they do, but their roles are so key. And there's, it's an incredible thing looking at how Steven manages to combine disparate elements that you might not think could coexist well, and tell a story that is as lovely and heartfelt and beautiful as it is terrifying and unsettling and unnerving. And he really is just incredible. And I think that the cast, everyone rose to the challenge beautifully.
Awesome. JJ, thank you so much for speaking with me. I love this piece of work, and and I'm excited for it to debut, and everybody else gets to enjoy it as well.
That's really kind. Thank you so much. Be well.
Thank you. You as well. JJ Abrams, as you guys know, he is a god to us, in movie loving land. He is just, I love everything he has done. I mean, Lost is one of my favorite shows ever. Fight me. I just love JJ. Anyway, so if you have a differing opinion, as I said, you're wrong. So, just know that. But okay, let's get in to the interview with Dane DeHaan. Hey, Dane, thank you so much for speaking with me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So tell me about, this, first of all, your work on the series is absolutely incredible. And
Thanks.
Your character is very much, it reminds me of, and I think actually Stephen King kind of said it, the inspiration was Mark David Chapman, John Lennon's murderer. Tell me about that, if that played a part in the inspiration for you playing him.
No, I guess. The way that this character was created was a really kind of interesting exploration that was like really unlike anything I had done before, that came with direction and conversations I was having with the director. Stephen King giving us a certain amount of freedom and trust to bring this character into modern day and make him off-putting and terrifying within the context of modern day society. And then also Stephen listening to those ideas, being on board with those ideas, and writing new material as we were going along. So there was something almost like broad stroke and like almost poetic about how we were working on the character. And it honestly wasn't really anything that we pulled from any specific person.
Okay. And the thing that is enjoyable about your character is, and this is actually a compliment to you, but how creepy he is in so many ways. And I mean that sincerely as a compliment, and a testament to your acting. How did you get into that place for Dooley?
Yeah, well, it was like, Dooley, it was a very external, it was like an outside in kind of thing where we had so many conversations about Dooley and the things that he does, whether that's a yo-yo or just like eating food all the time, or the way he looks, and even it began from the moment I came on set and sat in the makeup chair for an hour and a half and just watched them make me look absolutely terrible. And the conversations we would have in that sense, it was almost like putting on a mask and then allowing the mask to inform what I was doing. It was a really fun way to work, and a way that I haven't gotten to do in like a film or TV show before.
And you mentioned that Steven was adding or creating kind of some of the character as this series went on. Did you have any input into that? Was it based on, some of what you brought?
I did, yeah. The director, Pablo Larraín, had a really kind of specific vision on how to bring this character into like modern society and something that would resonate with modern audiences. And it is different than what's in the book, and it's different than what was even in the screenplay. And there was a lot of conversations that we had in how to bring Dooley to life, and Steven was writing as we were going along, and that was coming from, I think, the conversations that the director and I were having, and also a lot of what was going on set, and the like exploratory moments we were having, and the inspiration that gave us all.
I love that, and for me, as for the couple of episodes that I saw, for me the show seems to be a lot about grief and what happens with grief, and damaged people, which were all, I guess, damaged in some way, and how these damaged people go through life, and in some cases try to help others, and in some cases try to hurt others. How would you describe this series? It's complex. So I'm curious your take on it.
Yeah, well, I think that's really beautifully put. I think that like at its heart, it's a show about loss and the grieving process, and how a person navigates that personally, and also with their family, and the intricacies of siblings and husbands and wives and all of that, and what that means to us, and the places that takes us. And it deals with that on a very human level, but I think it obviously also deals with that on a supernatural level, and so the show weaves in and out of, you get to see these incredibly grounded performances from Julianne Moore and Joan Allen and Clive Owen, and there's also a supernatural element, and there's a horror element. So it is a hard one to describe, but it's really a Stephen King masterpiece.
Yeah, I totally agree. For your character and the interactions that you had with Julianne Moore, I read that it was interesting as you're filming that you guys may be doing this intense scene, and then it's like, oh, cut, and you guys are like laughing it up. What was that like kind of necessary in some of these really heavy, kind of scenes?
Yeah, it was the tone that she set, and it was a really refreshing tone to set. I think obviously she's so amazing, and her career and her work speaks for itself, but behind that career and that work is this incredibly like caring, loving, nurturing person, that when the cameras aren't rolling, wants to have a good time and get to know you. And that's such a comfortable, wonderful working environment, and I think allows us to go to dark places in a trusting way when the cameras are rolling. So it was refreshing in a lot of ways, and I was surprised that it was the way we did it, but I'm glad it was.
Awesome. Dane, thank you so much, man, for speaking with me. I love the series, and I love your role in it, your character in it. So thank you for your work with that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too. Really cool guy, right? Such a great guy. He's a very intense actor, and he is really good in Lisey's story. I can't wait for you guys to see it so we can talk about it. Okay, next up, the iconic Joan Allen. Hi, Joan. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Hey, Kyle. Sure.
So this, I love this series, and you are absolutely incredible in it. So I wanted to, first of all, give a huge shout out to you for such just a powerhouse of a role and what you did with it.
Thanks. Thank you, Kyle.
Of course. So I've asked everybody and JJ as well, and it's interesting because I've gotten many different answers, and which is why I'm very curious with you. This series for me is, I would say, about grief and the different baggage that we all have and what we do with that baggage, right? In my opinion. What is it for you?
I think it is a lot about that. It is about loss and grief and how we grieve and how we recover from it and how the trauma of that as well. I think it also deals with grief and trauma. And it does it through this way where characters, sometimes escape into these other places in their heads to cope and to manage and to learn and to try to get through and try to get to another place of more stability and, a little better place in their own lives.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully said. And your character, Amanda, is really a catalyst for everything that happens in the story in so many ways. Can you tell me how you approached her?
Well, I had long conversation with Pablo Larraín, our wonderful director, who talked me through, his perspective about her and was my guiding star throughout the whole thing. I thank him with my whole heart for everything he helped me with and helped me to do and work on. And I looked up, I found some YouTube things online with people who Amanda's character has some, she experiences catatonic episodes at time and has historically in her life. And so I was able to find footage of people in that state, which I found as an actor very helpful in terms of, eye movement, look in the eye, physicalization. And that was also very helpful to me. But when we did some screen tests before we started shooting, and Pablo just brought me in, and he also would help talk me through things and say, okay, well, you're seeing this now and you're seeing that now, you're doing this and now you're afraid and now they're going to get you. And now so he also narrated a lot of things for me, which was really helpful to get reactions, from one place to another.
I love that. And, you have an absolutely incredible body of work. And I'd say the theme, in my opinion, for so many of your characters is complexity. One of my favorites, probably, up there with now Amanda actually, is Senator Lane Hansen. And are you drawn to these types of complex people, or do you see them as in a challenge or a reflection of yourself in some way? Or can you explain that a little bit for me?
Yeah, I think most actors are looking for, complexity in the roles, the characters that they play and are studying and trying to portray. And it's, it starts with really good writing, and, hopefully the writing is good, and then you can take that and then use your own imagination. And also, yes, we have to draw from our own lives as well, what we've experienced, but try to craft between all of that and putting that together with a really other wonderful actors that you work with and a wonderful director who is your leader, who's helping you. It really all kind of comes together as it's a group. It's really a group experience in a lot of ways.
And were you able to work with Steven directly with the series?
He was around, and I think we shot over 5 months, and then there was a big break because of 5 or 6 month break before we started up again to finish the last month of shooting. And so I was in about my character's in maybe about a third of the whole series. And so I had times when I was not working, but then there were times when I was, and fortunately those were some days when Steven was actually there. And so he would, I would get the chance to have a brief conversation with him, or he would say, something that maybe about his own family that reminded him, like my character is inspired by one of his real sisters-in-law. And so that was a nice thing, to be able to hear him maybe give me just a little extra, tinge, flavor, or point of view.
And is that like intimidating in regards to this character from this iconic writer that it's such a personal story to him, and then now he's here some days? Is that like intimidating, or are you able to block it out? And obviously, I mean, you're Joan freaking Allen, so I'm sure there are many people intimidated by your incredible work as well. But in this case, is that something that you're able to block out, or are you able to, tell me about that?
I think I'm able to block out and embrace it a little bit at the same time. I just come at it from the point of view, it's like he wants you to do well. He doesn't want you to be bad. He wants you to really, he's not pulling against you. He's pulling for you. And I think if you reframe things that way, that is really, really helpful. And even though I wouldn't necessarily see him on set all that much, I just had faith that he was believing, and he was seeing dailies a lot. And Pablo, once in a while, would come up and show me a text that Steven had sent him, and he had seen some dailies, and he said, really like this scene or something like that. And so it just was gratifying to know that he was happy and we were on the right track.
I love it. Joan, thank you so much. Again, I mean, this is, yet another powerhouse performance from you. I love the character and the way that you have portrayed her. So thank you for speaking with me.
You're welcome, Kyle. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Again, incredible. Isn't she awesome? I mean, I don't know what more you can say about Joan Allen than she is such an amazing actress. She, is a Tony winner, 3-time Academy Award nominee for Best Supporting Actress for Nixon and The Crucible. And she got a Best Actress nom for The Contender, which The Contender, if you haven't seen it, it's from 2000. It is a really, really good political drama, mystery thriller. Must see. Anyway, she's been in everything. The Bourne movies, the Bourne Ultimatum movies. And in this, she is just watch it. Watch Lisey's story and then tell me how incredible Joan Allen is in her role as Amanda. Okay, finally, we have Ron Cephas Jones, who you may have heard of this man once or twice. He has earned 4 consecutive Primetime Emmy Award nominations, and he has won twice for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series in both 2018 and 2020. Love this man. He played Rico in Dolomite Is My Name, both seasons of Luke Cage as Bobby Fish, and he's been in on This Is Us since 2016 as Shakespeare. Just, oh, God, I can't wait for you to hear this. And once again, I may have shed a tear or two with this interview. Ron, thank you so much for speaking with me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. Appreciate it, too.
Of course. So, first of all, your work in this series is incredible. I absolutely love it. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Of course. And I've been asking everybody in the cast. For me, personally, this series is about grief and baggage. We're all kind of damaged in our own way and bring our own baggage. And what we do with that baggage, is I guess, defines the differences between us. What is your take on this? What is Lisey's story about to you?
Well, it's funny, Kyle, because I tried to find this example that I'm running with at the moment, and it started out with this idea or this feeling that we all have when you lose someone in your life that you're very close to, mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, friend, even a pet. And you have those moments in life where they come to you, whether it be in a voice or in a dream. That's the direction that I took, coming from or working from the inside out. That was my first thought about the story, is that I have many of those moments. And so I could call them at the moment, for a better term, a Stephen King moments, where specifically being very close with my mother. My mother's passed many years ago, 2007.
So
but
sorry for your loss.
Still daily, on birthdays or Mother's Days, she talks to me, right? Or I can hear her voice saying, Ron, don't do this, or Ron, I'm so proud of you, or whatever. And then if I take that thought and then run with it, as Stephen King does, that for me was the end to the story. That's how and then everything else started to develop for me, as it is for everyone else who's an audience member. But as an actor, that's how I got into the story, by finding my own personal ideas of love and loss. And that was how I got into it, not from the horror place, but from this particular place of love and longing and remembering and reminiscing. And oftentimes now I have these moments where I reminisce, and I'll either start laughing or I'll start crying, and I could be in a room by myself, or if someone else is going, well, why are you crying? And I'm just thinking about something. So yeah, I think that for me anyway, as an actor and a craftsman, that's how I came into the story.
I love that. Particularly, I lost my mom about 5 weeks ago, and I am extremely close with her. And this series actually kind of triggered me in many ways because of it's so raw for me still. And
yeah,
the series is so authentic, though, in, Julianne Moore's character, is what, 2-ish years into it. And I'm experiencing many of those things now, so many flashbacks, or I pick up something that she had given me or whatever, and I get my own kind of flashbacks. And so it's extremely interesting to me, especially personally, that is the angle that you took from it, because that's kind of the angle I am naturally in now as I watched the series.
Yeah. And then if you tell somebody that story, it depends on who they tell it and where they're at. It's like they'll go, ooh, that's spooky, or ooh, that's interesting, or ooh, I feel the same way. And so some people who are afraid of those feelings will say, oh, that's scary and spooky, so they push away. But then other times, when you relate to it, and that's how masterful I think Stephen King is. Like, this thought that I have or you're expressing can go either way, right? Depending on when you're thinking about it. Is it at midnight? Is it raining? All these other elements come into play. And those thoughts sometimes can scare you, where you can actually see an image in your room that's not there, or it could be a sunny, beautiful day, and that image would be so, and then you just start crying. So yes, I think that's what's going to make this story so different. You know, I can't even begin to say that it's a horror, because it's really not, right? It's sort of a psychological journey, dreamlike journey into the human psyche.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, so it's challenging as well, you know. So and many of us, that's what film should do. It should challenge us and make us feel something other than just thinking about a lot of intellectual things, but make you really feel something deep. And this series does that, I think.
And I agree. Maya Angelou said, and I'm paraphrasing here, butchering this, I'm sure, but it's not about how you make people think or what you do. It's about how you make them feel. And
that's right.
And, you know,
that's right.
So many of these characters are kind of driven by that. And it makes me as a viewer respond in kind. You know what I'm saying?
That's the whole objective, man. That's what I think that's what film, theater, writing should do. It should invoke something personal, something that you can relate to, but it should make you feel something. Whether it makes you laugh hysterically or cry hysterically or just somewhere in between, but there should be a level to where you can go on a journey of many different feelings. And this accomplishes that, I think.
I agree.
I feel very honored to be involved in this particular project.
And what was it like, you know, working closely with Stephen King? I mean, an icon.
Well, you know, Kyle, I didn't get a chance physically to work with him in my scenes, but I did with the director who was very close with the different notes in the particular scenes. But I will say, from speaking on the level that we were just speaking of, you could feel Stephen always in the room because he's so closely attached to this particular project. From what we found out is one of his favorite novels, one that he's very close to. But in particular for this series, he was involved in writing every episode, and he was there, you know, making changes as it was being developed. So in that sense, I still feel like I was working very closely with him.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Especially with something that's like a baby to him, you know, so personal.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And your character, the professor, how did you approach him? Because he, like, you know, the rest of the main cast is very complex. How did you approach that as an artist with, you know, I'm trying to be as spoiler free as possible, but how did you approach him?
Well, you know, the professor's kind of in between the Dane DeHaan character and the Julianne Moore character, right? And so that's kind of where the approach was. It was kind of finding the balance once I got into the scenes with each. So for me, it was moment to moment. I didn't have to map everything out right away. I knew we're in the context of where he was with his morality, you know, the fact that he was power driven. So certain specific things you do know, the other things you let play out, right? Because you have a caliber of actor like Julianne Moore, a caliber of actor like Dane DeHaan. There are certain unspoken things that are going to happen. And so the key is to let go and trust that you've done your homework as far as the script is concerned, and those moments will find the balance between the two. So that's why I found that character so interesting. There's a craft to the part about finding those layers where the professor is driven by his power and crosses a moral line and gets into this spooky place, this scary place where there's an underlying fear that you can hear in his voice that I think I've crossed the line, and this other character is not only I'm attached to him, but I'm attached to something ugly that I don't want to go any further with. So those are some of the things that were happening between that, and trust that those things will be there after you've done your homework and you have those type of actors that part of him that's there within me, I let happen, I let come out, and hopefully I found that balance.
I think you did beautifully.
Thanks, God.
Of course. And with finally, I was just speaking with Dane, and he was saying that he and Julianne in their scenes together would sometimes just, as soon as the take was over, would just break out in laughter. And was that the same kind of experience that you had on set? And the reason I ask this is because, some of this is really heavy stuff in a lot of ways. And so I'm curious about your experiences.
It's a balance. Sometimes you want to hold on to something because the next scene coming up or the next take is very close. But when you have this space, for me, I like letting go. And Juliana was very open like that. I mean, I'm sure Dane might have mentioned this to you as well, but she's very giving and caring, and has this way of making you feel totally comfortable. She'll talk about other things or see how you're doing, or she'll ask questions in between. What do you think? And how's this feel? So for me, you pick and choose those moments, right? If the next take is coming up really quick, you want to stay focused and stay within that space. Sometimes for me, I want to release.
Absolutely.
And then come back re-energized, so I want to release because I've done my homework so I can come back and latch in. I don't have to hold on to it for the whole time. For me, I need to release and then re-energize and then come back with a renewed energy. So, that's just my personal thing. I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, that's where Juliana came in. She's just very caring and giving.
Thank you so much. And I'm so sorry I just saw that. Thank you, Ron.
Kyle, thank you, brother.
Take care. Such an incredible talent. Oh, God. Yeah, I just can't say enough about this entire cast and crew. I mean, JJ Abrams, Joan Allen, Ron, Dane, what? Julianne Moore. I mean, it's just such a great series. I can't wait for you to watch it, and we can talk about it. And all right, so that is the show for today. We have, again, some exciting guests for next week's episode. I am doing a much better job so far, as of today, being on time with the episodes, meaning that every Friday at midnight Eastern, you will have available the latest episode of Pop Culture Weekly. That way, if you want to listen to it on your way to work, or, on the commute, or, if you're a night owl and haven't gone to bed yet, well, I hope I don't put you to sleep, but you want to listen to it before bed, or, you want to listen to it while you're at work. Help that Friday go by a little bit quicker, hanging out with me and the rotating panel of guest hosts, which have been empty for the last 6 months, but that's okay. We're bringing it back very shortly. The world is reopening slowly, so we're getting there. So in any event, that concludes episode 68 of Pop Culture Weekly. I love you all. Please share this with a friend if you enjoyed it. Subscribe. Obviously, you probably already do subscribe, but review. If you haven't reviewed us on Apple Podcasts, it really, really does help. And sometimes I randomly will read your review, and so that could happen too. All right, see you next week. We out.
You're listening to Pop Culture Weekly with Kyle McMahon, presented by 92.9 Tom FM, an iHeart radio station.
JJ Abrams is a god.